Roll call, please.
Councilperson Cowan. Here. Councilperson Bowman.
Here.
Councilperson Massey.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Aldridge.
Here.
Councilperson Brown.
Here.
Mayor Bradley.
Here. The invocation, Pastor Maynard with Argo Christian Fellowship.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you again this evening, thanking you for our great nation. Father, we pray that you would bless our city and our elected officials. Thank you, Lord, for each one of them and their sacrifice and the time and effort, the energy they expend in serving in their roles. Father, we pray that you bless this meeting. We pray that your will would be done. We pray, Lord, that you would guide our county on the decision for superintendent. We know that we've got a lot of great choices, and we're thankful for that. We just pray that you just bless our police force and our fire force here at Argo City Hall. I pray that you protect them as they go about their daily duties. And I pray, Lord, that you would just watch over us now as we seek to do your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, I'd like to recognize some of our county officials and also some of our superintendents that's running for Board of Education. Ricky Parker from the County Commission is here. We're going to let him say a few words. Mike Hobbs, candidate for St. Clair County School Board, is also here. And we have Mike Howard and Greg Cobb, which are running for candidates for Superintendent of Education. We're going to let Speaker Mike Howard speak first, because he's the first one that turned in an application. We're going to give each candidate 10 minutes to do their speech and say a little bit about themselves, and if the public would like to answer them any questions, then we'll let them ask the questions. 10 minutes is going to be include this questions and also their campaign speech. Go ahead, Mr.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak with y'all, and I'm going to kind of turn sideways so y'all can hear me as well. But before I begin, I just want everybody to know that I'm not here to discredit anything that Ms. Seals has done in her 12 years, because I'm very grateful of what she's done for our county. She brought me into this county, and so I'm very grateful for her for that as well. Neither am I going to discredit anything that Mr. Cobb's going to say, because I believe on running on my own platform and on my own merit. And I've been unwavering since day one on exactly what I want to accomplish as superintendent, and so I'm going to continue to hit on those high notes here tonight. But I don't want to spend a lot of time talking to you, because I want to give you the opportunity to ask questions. But first of all, I want to go over the 3 points that I've mentioned since day one. The first point is we need to upgrade and update our facilities across the county. Our school population is growing dramatically. I know at St. Clair County High School, where I'm a principal at, we gained 50 students this year, we gained 60 next year, and 50 the year after that. And that's just our next 3 years. I don't know where I'm going to put those students. So we have to upgrade our facilities in order to accompany all these people, because classroom portables are not the answer. They're unsafe. They're a lot of times unsanitary. They're too cold and too hot, and different types of the temperatures. Because I've been in those, and that's not a good situation, and that's not something that St. Clair County needs to have in our school systems. The tax referendum did not pass, and we all know that right now. I don't know what we're going to plan next. There's rumors that we may try to hit it again. There's also rumors of district tax. One thing I think we should do is research a consumption tax. And a consumption tax, basically, we can tax everyday items, and then everybody has a little piece of the pie, instead of just targeting only property owners. But it takes a lot of research for this to occur, and something that well above my pay grade, but it's something I would love to be involved in to see if this is something that would benefit St. Clair County moving forward. Second thing is, we have to conduct, and what I'm going to do is conduct an internal audit. I want to know people and programs are what we need to benefit our students, because we have to be good stewards with the taxpayer dollars already. You pay a lot into the school system now, so we need to make sure that the people we have receiving a salary and the programs that we're spending money on are both statistically helping our students achieve greatness. And if those answers are no, then we have to make adjustments. We have to make sure that every dime that we're spending of our taxpayer money is benefiting our students? And the answer to that is no, we have to do those adjustments. And sometimes those aren't easy. We have to tighten our bootstraps. We got to make every dime count if we're going to move forward in our county. And programs do not have to cost a lot of money to be effective. There's 3 things that we've piloted at St. Clair County High School. And one of those I brought with me from Shelby County, because I was at Oak Mountain High School before I came to St. Clair. And one of those is called Peer Mentor and Ambassador Program. And this is one of the reasons why we've transformed our school so quickly at St. Clair County High School. Because the freshmen never have a voice in our schools. They're already adjusted from middle school to high school, and so there's that uneasiness with them. And so what we decided to do was teach them character education and adversity training. And who better to teach freshmen than other students in the school? So we have our upper class students teaching our freshmen 25 minutes a day on character education. Because we as teachers can talk about it all day long, but there's such a disconnect between our 14-year-olds and ever how old we are. And so I wanted to make sure that our student body had an opportunity to work with our freshmen. And what the second thing that I've done is a student leadership council. I have 4 seniors, 4 juniors, 3 sophomores, and 3 freshmen that are on the leadership council. And we meet periodically to talk about school issues. And I sit down at the table like this, and we all sit around there together, and we talk one-to-one. Because if I want to plan or implement something at the high school, I want the student's perspective of how it's going to be received. But also, I want them to come to me and say, these are the things that we want to do as a student body, and they want my approval as a principal. So we sit down together and we hash out things. And that's why we changed the way our homecoming operates. I give them a full week of homecoming activities. What I have found, student morale and community pride has went through the roof. And that's what it's all about. If you want to have buy-in at a school or a school system, involve the community. Make them excited of what we do, and great things can happen. And the last thing that we've implemented is I'm piloting a virtual education program at the school. And my goal is of this program, and Ms. Seals has also been instrumental, I'll talk about that in a second, but our goal is to let our students acquire elective classes early so they can get out early their senior year. This is twofold. One, if they're on the borderline of dropping out, and they know on the end of the day I don't have to be here my entire senior year, chances of them dropping out drops dramatically. Second of all, if there's any teachers in the room, they'll tell you it's easier to teach a smaller class than a larger one. And so if these students can get and obtain electives early, then that reduces the class sizes for our core classes. And they can go from anywhere from 30-something kids to a class to 20-something, which is a huge difference in being able to work one-on-one with a student. So those are the programs, and none of those cost me a dime. None of them have. And see, Ms. Seals she's and her team has been researching for 5 years of a virtual school program to incorporate our homeschool students across the county. This will take a little bit of financial burden off the homeschool parents, but allow them to be served in a non-traditional way in a public school setting. And I'm so excited if she's able to get this passed with the Board of Education to be able to take what we've piloted, apply it to this school, and be able to take us to the next level. So that's another thing that I'm real looking forward to moving forward. Third thing is recruit and retain. We have got to recruit the best. We've got to retain the best. We have great teachers in our county, but they need better professional development opportunities to grow professionally. We also have to go out and we got to find teachers that want to be here, because living in St. Clair County is a great place to be. Yeah. Great school system to work for, a great place to raise our family. But we've got to go out and get these people to move here for us. We have to find ways to get them here. And that's by recruiting, because if we want our students to be the best, they have to be taught by the best. And if we want our teachers to be the best, they have to be supervised by the best. And if we want our principals to be the best, they have to be supported by the central office, who are the best. And we have to find those best. And a lot of them are already here. We just got to make sure that the God-given talents that we're given, we're using them appropriately, and make sure that people are in the right position. Now, none of this is possible if I didn't believe that we could achieve greatness. See, I'm a believer in a few things. I believe in a hard work ethic. My granddaddy told me growing up, a man's only worth 2 things, his word and his work ethic. And if you can't do either one, you can't call yourself a man. So I believe in outworking everybody. I wanted to be the best coach, the best teacher, and now the best principal that I could possibly be. And I want to make sure that nobody can hold my candle, because I want to be the best. And that I strive every day to outshine everybody. And that's just my mentality, and that's what I want for my staff, and that's what I want for my students. I believe in valuing my teachers and my students. I want them to know that I care about them and I love them. I will fight tooth and nail for every teacher and every student in my school, and I'll do it as superintendent across the board. I want to make sure that they understand that I believe in being the best and not settling for mediocrity. Because being okay is not okay with me. I don't believe in mediocrity out of myself, my staff, or my students. I want them to be extraordinary. And by not reaching for the stars, we'll never hit it. We have got to raise our own bar. Because that's, if you've seen our motto is raising the bar. My goal as superintendent is to become the bar for other systems to measure themselves against. I have a structured mindset. There's some things that I don't believe in. I do not believe in the good old boy system. That's just not who I am. That's not what I believe in. I believe in people being put in places because they deserve to be there. Promotions are given because you've earned them, not given because you allowed. I promise you, I will move you into a spot for you to vote for me. I don't operate that way. I have not given anybody any promises. I don't believe in name dropping, which means I know good people. I know people in the NFL all the way down. There's no need for that because they are not going to help me be a better leader. I want to run on my own merit. I'm my own man. And I want to prove to people that I can handle the job and also do the job to the best of my ability. And last thing is, I don't believe in messing up and moving up. Because that's not what I believe in as an administrator. If I mess up as an administrator, I should be gone, not move to central office to get me out of that school. I want people to be the best, myself included. I'm going to close with this and I'll open it for questions. I believe God made us all unique. God created some people to be generals and some people to be soldiers. God created some people to be CEOs and others to be employees. And God created leaders and He created followers. And on June the 5th, voters have got to decide who they want to lead our school system. And I hope it's me. I really do. But if it's not me, I will support whoever is the superintendent because I believe in doing my job the best as I possibly can do it. But honestly, I think when you do all the research and you really sit down, you'll say that I am the right choice for the superintendent. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Howard?
Yes, ma'am.
I have one. I'm a teacher in St. Clair County, so I would first like to go on record, and I would like to ask both of you to publicly please give us permission to say who we're voting for. It's very important at our schools for us not to feel like it's going to be, one day, one of you are going to be over us. And I'm a leader, I'm taking a risk standing up, and I'm okay with that. I like both of these men, I have respect for both of them, but I hear a lot that teachers are afraid to speak up. And a lot of parents really value our opinion. So that's first what I want to say, but my question is for you. Mr. Cobb has stated that the other night when he was at the Crandall Crest Homeowners Association meeting that he was more qualified because he had been in St. Clair County longer than you. Why should we vote for you having less experience in St. Clair County?
Well, that's a very good question. I guess the question is, what do you value as being more qualified? Because I haven't lived here all my life, so and he hasn't, so that's already pulled me out of the mix if that's what you want as somebody who's lived here. But the question is, do you want it to be quantity or quality? Because I've known people that have worked here for 30 years that are not very good teachers or whatever. And I've known people that have worked here 1 year and it was good. So it's all about quality. I've done a lot in 2 years. And you can look at the research, you can look at statistics and know what I've done. If I can do what I've been able to transform a school where I am now in 2 years, imagine what I can do in 4 as superintendent. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My question is, I'm a parent at Margaret Elementary. I volunteer a lot there. My name is Stacy Allen. And my question is, with all of the present issues with safety in our schools.
Yes, ma'am.
And the recent shootings and all that, how are you prepared to teach our teachers, our staff, our safety for our children, so that as a mom, if I send my child to school, that I know that I'm going to be able to go pick him up when I get there and after.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I have a 12 and a 2-year-old in the system too, so I'm very, very concerned about their safety. First of all, there is nothing that you can put in place that will eliminate all threats, ever. There's nothing. We all know this. I mean, we have a police officer in the room. There's nothing you can do when it comes to that. We have to have more SROs in our system. period. And my plan is to work with the Sheriff's Department, because there's some grants out there to where they can utilize those to be able to plus SROs in every single school, hopefully depending on the money on their end, and hopefully all the local cities being able to step up and being able to offset some costs, but we have got to do that. But what happens when somebody enters the building? We conducted a lockdown drill last week, and we have, and I brought this from Shelby County. I give people credit where credit is due now. So we brought this from Shelby County. We have what we call a hard lockdown, which means an intruder in the building. We do it at the worst possible time. I'm not going to go through all the details because I don't want the, how we do things get out there, but we were able to go from students in the hallway, all 600 during class change, to everybody locked down in 27 seconds. Because statistics tell you an intruder is going to take 7 seconds at a door on average. If they can't get in that door in 7 seconds, they're moving on. Sandy Hook, he had 5 seconds. He missed the first one because it was locked. The second was locked. The third one wasn't. So we need to make sure that we protect as much as we can in a short amount of time. We've created a device that that we're very excited about. And we're going to start doing with my ag program, to where it's made out of wood, but it locks the inside of the door completely down. And it's twofold. The reason we want to do the wood part is because if a SWAT team has to break in the door because the intruder's already inside and locked himself in the room, they're able to break through the wood better than the metal device that slides under, which is also a fire hazard. Because I've already had to do all the research on this as well. And it's a fire hazard with the metal because a young child may not be able to undo that to get out if something's on fire. So that's why we looked at the wood portion. Those metal devices cost anywhere from $150 to $200 a piece. This wooden device, less than $20. And it does just as much. We had a 300-pound police officer the other day trying to break in the door, and he couldn't do it. So those things are what we can do. But the other way is you drill like it's real, and we have to start teaching our kids at the elementary level how to deal with adversity moving forward, so they don't feel like they have no other alternative when they get to high school other than to lash out in a violent way.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
My name is Joe, and I'm a taxpayer.
Yes, sir.
I have been around this county since 2003. I had children that went to some schools not associated with St. Clair County, but I had some that did. And I got grandchildren going to school. And my question is this: knowing as long as I have been in St. Clair County toward the education, I see a lot of heaviness at the board. I see a lot of the pat you on the back, good old girl syndrome, good old boy syndrome. I've seen the things moved around that you really got to question yourself. Wow, where did that come from? And it really has not helped the county at all. You know what I'm saying? And we as taxpayers, we should demand better out of our superintendent. I'm tired, really truly, I'm tired of hearing, it's none of your business. I'll call up there, somebody call, get some kind of information, and we can't help you. You'll have to get online to get that. That's not, listen, I probably don't pay a lot in taxes, but what I do pay should, it should go a long way for me. I am, and that's, in saying that, I would like to know what you plan on doing about eradicating the heaviness at the board.
Yes, I understand. Well, any termination of any contract in a school setting has to be board approved. So, the superintendent would go to the board and say, this is the recommendation he or she would make, and then the board would decide out of 7 people, if it passed or not. So that part's there, but the way I look at it is this. We have to support our schools in any which way that we can. And if the answer is that what we have now, then absolutely that's the way we need to move forward. But the way I looked at it was, I was a football coach, a teacher, a husband, a father, and I went to college all at the same time. People can have more than one job, role, responsibility, and be able to survive day to day. And I try to do as much as I can as an administrator. I came from Shelby County where they had 4 assistant principals and 1 principal in one building. That was 5 administrators. Over here, there's 1 principal and 1 assistant principal, and he and I can handle just fine. And that does get overwhelming at times, but we can do it just fine. And so I think we have to look at that at the central office. How can we redesign job functions? And if somebody retires, can we absorb that spot and put more money back in the classroom? Because at the end of the day, the people that are most important are the boots on the ground in the classroom, and that's our teachers. We have to have more locally funded classroom teachers, and we got to have more supplies and more books and everything for our students.
How do you plan on, let's say, let's keep the teachers. The teachers are the most important part of what we do here.
Yes, sir.
Without them and without students, you're unemployed.
Absolutely.
And how do you plan on monitoring and keeping retention as far as the teachers? I have seen good teachers in this system be fired because, well, you just don't meet our quota. You just don't do what we want you to do. You know, that's a shame. That's a shame, because good people lose their job. That my goodness, in what kind of a teacher could we have in 2 or 3 years? You know, I know that you got bad people in bad places, but you know, I would like to see, you know, retainability. You know, you say that, you know, you set the bar. Well, you know, I would have liked to have heard you say that with my staff that I will surround myself with, and we work together, we can, hey, we're going to go leaps and bounds. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
But I do understand what you're saying about, you know, you set the bar, and you should set the bar. Because if you don't set it, ain't nobody going to reach it.
Right.
So, and I think that you know, I get what you meant when you said that. You know what I'm saying? But I would say this. I hope that, you know, if you get elected, or if Mr. Cobb gets elected, or I hope that, you know, it's not the same old thing. He drives his car into the office, and it, you know, well, I'm getting paid. That's all I'm worried about.
Right.
You know.
Yes, sir.
I'm sick of seeing that. But anyway.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You made the comment about the thing that you have made over at your school. Is that something that, regardless of whether you're elected or not, that you're going to try to get all the schools to use that equipment?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Seals actually wants me to go around taking pictures of doors and getting measurements. We're actually going to the Moody campuses tomorrow. Spend about 10 minutes just looking at doors. It's not a political thing or anything. That's not why I'm going. I'm looking for the safety of our students. And regardless of what happens, I want to see these devices implemented across our county, because it's already been approved by the fire marshals at the state level. We got to do something different for second level students, because they don't have a window to get out of. So we got to modify the device at that point. But yes, I want to see every single classroom, because again, if you can protect the classroom from the inside and stop somebody from entering, whether or not the door is locked or not, chances are things can be handled a whole lot faster where there's no lives lost during the process. So yes, ma'am.
One other question. I know everybody's been talking about as far as the administration and that kind of thing. What about once we get that situated and the school situated as far as upgrades and stuff like that, where do you see the system going as far as getting more programs at the individual schools? The elementary schools getting more, I don't know what to call it, special activities,
right.
More things that they can do. I mean, I know we can't be trustful. We're not going to be trustful. I know that. But getting more things that they get to do that I'm seeing from their school.
Well, I know, you know, a lot of things at the elementary school level, our reading and mathematics have got to come up, But also, we have to find ways to let kids be kids too. Because we put so much emphasis on academics so early in life that we forget that students are students and kids are kids, and they need to play and get the energy out and things like that, because we're trying to make them grow up too fast. Because I have a middle schooler and he's learning geometry, Pythagorean theorem and things like that. I didn't learn that until I got to high school. So it's blowing my mind a 7th grader has to learn it. But that's great because we're pushing those. But we have to look at programs across the board, because not every student's going to college, not every student's going to go to career after that, and not every student's going to the military, but all of them will do one of those 3 things. And so we have to start guiding them earlier by looking at what we can offer to push them in the right direction by the time they get to a high school level. So yes, reading and mathematics have got to be a priority at the elementary school. Getting back to the roots and the basics of being able to provide more recess opportunities for those students to be able to unwind. And then the middle school level, it is basically fostering everything you did at the elementary and making them stronger, make them better citizens, make them better character education courses, and also providing those academics that needed to transition them to high school, so that they don't feel when they get to be a freshman that they dropped off so much that there's no end in sight. So we've got to, you know, provide better program opportunities there, but we've got to teach the entire student, the whole person, instead of just focusing in on only on one thing. Because academics is academics, and we all got to have it, but we also got to focus on the other things with our students if we want them to be successful. Rather than just putting a device in front of them and saying, here you go, we've got to teach them how to be well-rounded. And I think that has to be fostered in middle school.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Howard. You kind of ran over, but we're going to give
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
We're going to give Mr. Cobb the same time.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Mr. Cobb.
I want to also thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you tonight. A lot of the questions came this way, and I was sitting there going, well, I'd like to answer those, but I'm not sure I can remember them all, so I may get you to ask those questions again in just a few minutes. But I do want to tell you that I'm a 23-year veteran of the school system here in St. Clair County. I'm a lifelong resident of St. Clair County, but Angela, that does not make me uniquely qualified. And whether I misspoke or whether it was taken out of context, what makes me uniquely qualified is my resume. My resume includes being a teacher here in St. Clair County, being an administrator in St. Clair County, being administrator at the State Department of Education, and then coming back to St. Clair County and being administrator at the central office level. Now, I know that some of you, we've had some questions in the room about central office and that kind of thing. You know, and in a situation where you do have funding issues, you always have to learn to be the most efficient that you can be. So being there, I've already listed all the things that I know that everybody does. You know, but there's many times that all of us don't even know what we all do, because we've been given hats to wear over the years. And so doing that and wearing those hats, you know, oftentimes we just continue to do those things so that the job continues to get done. So many times they look at me and they say, well, you're federal programs coordinator. Well, yes, that would be the primary function of my job. But the secondary function of my job would be things like AP coordinator, keeping up with everyone's professional development so that they can be recertified when it comes time for their recertification for their teaching certificate. So many things that I do that I don't mention because it's just we chip in and we do it. So I just wanted to clear the air there. And the other thing that I want to say before I really get started into what I've come to say is that I think those teachers that are in the room that have known me for years, and the people in the room that have known me for years, I would certainly say to you, say whoever you're wanting to be for. It doesn't matter to me. You know, Angela, I've known that you were for Mike for a long time. But I haven't attacked you. I mean, it's just Facebook stuff. I mean, I've seen that. So I'm not saying anything derogatory about anybody. I just want everybody to know that I'm a gentle person. And if you've known me long enough, you know that I'm a gentle person, and that I'm not going to retaliate or do anything that would be unprofessional or really and truly ungodly. Okay, because that's where I'm going right now. First and foremost, I have three priorities. First is my relationship with God. The second priority is my wonderful family, my wife and my son Stedman, who is 24 years old. And then my third priority is my passion, which is my career. And I've devoted my career to St. Clair County way back when. Started as a teacher's aide in alternative school. And then I started progressing on up. And the one thing that I want to say is that the years that I have served as administrator, I was able to be in every situation. I know kindergarten through 3, I know 4 through 6, I know 7 through 8, I know it all. So I can talk to you about curriculum instruction changes that need to be made in every level. I was a high school teacher, so I understand the plight of the high school. I understand all of that. I understand how it's so important to have everything that you can possibly offer for a high school kid. I also believe that we can't just be college and career ready today, but we have to offer our kids and our teenagers opportunities to be able to take the pressures that they're going to receive when they get into those careers and stand against those pressures and the fire that they may come against. Because those of you that are in the workforce know that every day is not an easy day. Every day you have certain difficulties, certain circumstances that come against you. And it's what's inside of you, and it's what the adults taught you when you were in school to determine whether or not you handle those situations and those choices correctly. So I just wanted you to understand that it's very, very important that we teach our kids that the skills and the Pythagorean theorem, photosynthesis, all of those things we have to know. Yes, those things are important. But how do you put that together with work ethic? How do you put that together and be persistent in what you're supposed to do? And I have a plan for that. And that plan is to make sure that we know our kids well. We need to have workforce folks within our high schools that are helping drive our kids to know exactly where they need to go. We don't need students to cross the stage in May, receive a diploma, and then figuratively go off stage and go, well, what's next? We need for them to know what's next. We need for them to be confident in what's next. And I've seen Jeff State do so many wonderful things with our kids in a bridge program so that those students are going through dual enrollment in career tech. Well, that's not the end of the story. They go through that dual enrollment and then they begin in the next fall and they continue with welding, with manufacturing, all the things that Honda and all the agencies around us tell us that kids need to have. And I've been on those teams. I've been on the economic development teams that have gone to Birmingham and listened to those people that are supervising, those presidents of businesses saying, this is what we're seeing missing. Okay? We have interview days. I'm a part of the interview teams that go around to the high schools and we interview those students. We ask them questions just like they would be asked in an interview, because we know that them being able to communicate with supervisors, them being able to communicate with other adults is vitally important to their future. And we want them to feel confident in that. I know how to manage large budgets. As Federal Programs Coordinator, we currently have a budget right now in Title I of $1.55 million. And then we have Title II, Title III, Title IV, and the other federal programs that are on top of that that reach up above $2 million. So over the last 4 years, I've been able to manage the budgets, fall within federal compliance each year without having any citations. Okay, and I think that's very, very important for you to understand that in a time when we have to crunch budgets and we have to squeeze every penny, you know, if you watch the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. We have to make sure that we get everything out of what we're doing. And just like my opponent said, when you have retirements, attrition takes place, and you start looking at what everybody does. You start making sure that we are as efficient as we possibly can. Okay? But we're not going to be able to, just like you have to balance your checkbook. You have to make sure that you don't overspend. That's the same way with the school system. We have an amount of federal money that we get, we have an amount of state money that we get, and we have an amount of local money that we get. And we don't get any more than that. Okay? And when we talk about taxes, we have to understand that the taxes that go for education have to be reliable taxes. We can't have taxes that may be up this year and down this year, because you can't plan on that. You can't hire teachers and have them come from another district to come to us and then the money not be there the next year and say, well, I'm sorry you gave up your tenure over here, but we can't have you here anymore. Okay? So when you look at taxes, when you look at having funds available for education, you have to look at the bottom line and know that when you hire that teacher, you're going to have the money to sustain that teacher. So I understand budgets. I know how to handle the budgets. I stand on my own 2 feet. I know how, I'm a strong person when it comes to dealing with educational resources, because I believe that the best educational resource that we have is the children that we have sitting in the desk in our classrooms. Okay? I've had those years. This is my 18th year as an administrator. I've had those years where I had CSEP drills over at the Anniston Army Depot, and we didn't think it was a drill. And we had 4 minutes to get 650 kids in a gym and then put it airtight and know that we could not open those doors again. I've been in that situation. I've been in the situation that I've had 1 minute to call the EMA to make sure that I knew what our next steps were once we locked down that gymnasium. So I have been there. And I resent anyone to think that I hadn't been there, because I understand the plight of what it is to be a principal, an assistant principal. I understand what it is to be in those situations. And then as I went to the State Department, I went into schools where we had nobody reading on grade level. Not a soul reading on grade level. And I was challenged academically. Bring this school up or we're going to close it down. So I went into that school and I looked into the eyes of those children and I looked into the eyes of those people in that community, realizing that I had to get in there and work with them to help them save their school. So I have had vast experience. But the best experience that I have had is that I've flown at 35,000 feet. I understand the pitfalls that are in every community because every community has them. I understand the things in each community that are successes and the people in each community that we can rely on. I know where to go for those resources. And day one of the superintendency in January of 2019, I could step into that role and I already know those things. I don't have to learn those things because I've been able to fly at 35,000 feet for the last 7 to 8 years. Just a bit about the things that set me apart. The things that set me apart is that I have been at the University of Alabama Superintendent's Academy. I've gone through that whole process, the law courses, the instructional courses, the budgeting courses. All of those things I've been a part of. Also, I'm very thankful that I was able to go through Leadership St. Clair County. I did that 5 years ago, folks, because I wanted to know what St. Clair County was going to look like in the future, because I had within my gut 5 years ago that I wanted to lead us to the next level. So I'm here now. It's 2018, and I'm asking you, the people of Argo and of Springville, and wherever you might have traveled from tonight, I'm asking you, as humbly as I can, to vote for me on June 5th, Greg Cobb, to be your next Superintendent of Education. Now, I'd like to ask anybody that had any questions. I'll be glad to. Okay, yes ma'am.
I watched your video on school safety that you put out.
All right.
You stated in there that you were looking at ID scanners to be put in every school in the county to run an instant background check on anybody that steps foot on our school campus. One, the cheapest ones I have found online only tell what somebody's age is, and they're $500 each. Most of them are $1,000 or more. That doesn't include all the software that they would need. Two, do you consider it a huge invasion of privacy to run a criminal background check on a parent, which I am, coming to check my child out of school?
Well, you just have to understand that those background checks, they're not going to release anything that's going to be an invasion of privacy.
Then why do we need them?
Those scanners, we need them so that someone's child does not get abducted. We need them so that we know that the people that are there on our campus are there for a purpose, that they're not there to do harm to either a child or an adult, to make sure that they are not allowed to go any further within our buildings, so that all of our kids stay safe. You know, I haven't met many people who would say that anything that we do that would be a countermeasure to keep a child safe is a bad thing. You know, no one is looking to see if, you know, but, you know, unless, you know, they send us those copies of the sex offender list. You know, we have those pictures up on our bulletin boards in our offices. But you know, you can't catch everything. When people come through, the office staff's doing 3 or 4 different things at one time, and if you've been in one of our offices, you've probably noticed that. But that would bring up the idea, the fact that you might have someone that's on the sexual predator list standing in front of you. And certainly we don't want that person to engage with a child that's not supposed to be there. And that was the only thing that I was saying, is that you know, once you put that software in, it's a one-time thing. I gave a laundry list of things that I would like us to do, and I looked at different places that use those scanners, and the schools that use those scanners feel like that they've given them more, at least a little bit more safeguard in the people that are coming through the door.
Can I piggyback on that?
Sure.
You put in there about looking into grants, federal grants, and combining it with police or sheriff's departments. If that grant doesn't come through, where would that money come from when, as of right now, we can't even afford for every child to have a book?
Well, you know, and the thing that I would like to say about that is, you know, textbooks and safety and security, they're all different pots. So there's money that you can use for safety and security that I couldn't purchase a textbook for, because it would violate federal law. Does that make sense? And I can't use textbook money that the state stipulates for textbook money to buy anything that has to do with school security. So there's pots of money for this and pots of money for that. So respectfully, you know, I would have to see what pot, how much money is in this pot, how much money is in this pot. Because the last time I looked, we were given $52 for a textbook, and each textbook cost $100. So that's not made up with federal money, and that's not made up with local money. I mean, state money. That's made up with local money. And right now, we know the shape we're in locally.
3 minutes, Mr. Cobb.
I'm sorry.
3 minutes.
I'm just trying to answer the
I
question.
just have one more. I'm sorry. I am an employee in St. Clair County Schools, and I attended the Safety Summit last year, and he gave us a lot of measures that we could do right now, but before all this other happened, that would protect our schools even more. And as far as I know, I don't know of any of them that have been implemented in this county.
Well, you know, you have to look at each school, and each school can implement some of those things. Each teacher should be able to implement those things. He was giving us an idea of things that we could do within the classrooms and within the schools to make our schools safer. We're always trying to make our schools safer, but we have to make our schools safer within the means that we have in order to do that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that security thing you're just talking about, when you come in and scan this, that, and the other. Well, let's just say that I go in there to get one of my grandchildren. When I had something on my record, I really don't want nobody to know. It ain't no sex offender, nothing like that. I might have got charged with marijuana, something, you know, whatever. Well, you know, the secretary in there, I might go to church with her. Well, now, guess what's going to happen? Well, next thing I know, the preacher's coming to my house, visit me, cast tickets out of me. You know, I don't want that. Listen, if I go in there, I will stop by. I know you said, well, I don't want our kids to, you know, abducted. Well, let's look at that. How many children have been abducted in St. Clair County schools in the past year?
Thank God we have none.
In 5 years.
But I can tell you that we constantly have people that come to our offices that should not be picking up children, and there's a danger.
Well, now, would it not be better to say, listen here, let's lock this door down, and let's get it where they have to come through here and go in this office? You know what I'm saying? Instead of spending this money, it's going to ruin somebody's life. Eventually, it's going to ruin somebody's life. Then you're going to be in a lawsuit because, you know, what you're doing, you're infringing on my constitutional rights there.
And sir, I'm telling you, our lawyers would not allow for anything that should not be seen to be seen. You know, and certainly the sheriff's office, you know, if we're getting to the place where volunteers that come into our schools have to go through background checks.
Well, and I get that, and I understand that. But anyway, that being said, it'll all work itself out. But the one thing I do have a good question is this right here. What do you plan to do for your support staff The bus drivers don't get any recognition. You know, the old boy with the mop in his hand going down the floor right there, he hurts as hard as you and everybody else. But does he get a recognition? Nah, not unless he's messed up somewhere. You know what I'm saying? The bus driver, where do they get their accolades from? I can tell you now, they ain't coming out of the bus shop.
Well, let me say this. As a child growing up, my dad died when I was 9, and we owned a dairy farm. So the dairy farm was great business. Then when my dad died, I was 9, my mom became a single adult, single parent. So she went to work as a teacher's aide in Oakland. So I remember looking at her check stub, a month's pay was $425. So sir, I highly respect the people who do those jobs. There are certain jobs within our school system that are paid the lowest, that absolutely...
I'm not, you're going wrong with it. I don't care about what they're paid. It's just being recognized, you know what I'm saying? And then if you call the bus shop for some reason, hey, my bus can't go down this road. Can I get somebody here to look at? Yeah, I'll get somebody out there next month, next week. You know what I'm saying? I don't see anything for the staff. You're talking about the teachers, how good they are. They're wonderful. I love teachers.
Thank you.
But listen, where's the other people's? You know, hey, how about going down and visit one of the bus drivers one day and say, thank you for what you do for us. How hard is that?
I do it.
You know?
I do.
Well, I can tell you now that, you know, the top is heavy and it needs to be trimmed.
Well, and like I said, you know, I have to look at how efficient things are, and
Well, wait a minute now. A visit to a bus driver, is that efficient? A visit to the janitor is efficient? Come on now, that ain't gonna work.
I'm not talking about that. You just said the top was heavy.
It is heavy.
So I was talking about when I become superintendent, I'm going to have to look at the efficiency of the people at the top. Okay, you took out in context, sir, and I'm being very respectful.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm saying to you that I have people that are supporting me on my team. They are custodians,
Yes.
they are teachers' aides, and they are bus drivers. So I don't want it inferred, sir, that I don't appreciate those people in those positions, because I do.
How many of you went and visited this month from Margaret? Just say Margaret.
From Margaret?
How many did you go visit this month from Margaret?
Probably none at Margaret.
Let me ask you this right here. If you went, let's say you're at the top, and I just said it's heavy. Well, let's just say you find somebody, well, you know what, we can send a pat on here. We could hire somebody at $40,000 less a year. We put her in place. You know what I'm saying? I understand you got contracts that you fulfill, but, you know, I see where there's a lot of money to be saved. You know?
And you have to give me the chance to be in the position to see all of that.
So when can we expect something back?
Do what, sir?
When can we expect something back? When can I hear something? I pay your salary. As my taxpayers, I pay your salary. When can I expect something back from you to say, this, guys, I've reviewed everything. I'm in the office. This is what we're going to do. We're going to cut it here, cut it here. This is our new budget going in there. We can save money. And guess what? We can put a sheriff inside the school. Now, listen, I may be, you know, dreaming here, but this is my dream. It's
Okay,
my
thank you,
dream.
Mr. Cobb. Time's up. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
With all due respect, I am not the superintendent.
But is that what you're not running for?
I am.
Okay, so when you get in office here next month, can I not expect something by next school year and say, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do?
Oh, I would love it. But I have to be in that position
I
before I
get
respond.
that. I get that. Nothing away from you, sir. You know, what you're doing is a good thing right now. But, you know, the one thing I like results. I don't like this. I like results. And I like to hear it. You know? So anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Next is Mike Hobbs, candidate for St. Clair County School Board.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for allowing me to come and address everyone tonight. And I'll definitely try to stay within my 10 minutes, but if you need to cut me off, I'll understand that as well, too. You've heard some passionate voices tonight. I think a lot of us want to see a lot of changes in St. Clair County. And so what I want to do is just tell you my background a little bit and the history of how I got here so you'll know why I'm interested in being on the St. Clair County School Board. First of all, I'm the Dean of Students or Dean of Enrollment for Jefferson State Community College. We have about 9,000 students. I handle everything from admissions, advising, ADA services. I supervise about 13 different departments and handle a budget, including financial aid, probably somewhere around the $30 million mark. We spend about $22 million in financial aid. So I've been there with that. I have an associate's degree from Jefferson State, a bachelor's degree and master's from both UAB, and a PhD from Mississippi State. So I'm not an Alabama and Auburn fan. I'm a Go Dogs fan. Because if that's the decision for you, I am 100% Go Dogs. So I'm sorry about that. But my PhD is in administration, leadership, and economics. I teach economics at Jefferson State and as well as Stanford University. So that's kind of my background and my history on how I do things. I've had about 20 plus years in the system. Why am I here today with you? Why am I interested in running for a school board system? Well, I married a girl from Springville, so that brought me out to Springville. We had 3 kids. I have a 13-year-old little girl, and then I have a set of boy-girl twins. And all 3 of them are completely different. None of them are alike. If you know my kids, and hopefully they've been good kids around you, but they're completely different. So I've been up and down. I've been to anime conventions. I've been to basketball tournaments, to flag twirl and stuff. So I've had the full gamut of what a kindergartner through middle school has gone through. And so a few years ago I started coaching tackle football with my friend Rick Hopkins, who's here with me tonight, and just fell in love with it. I became on the football tackle board, became president of the football tackle board, and loved being with my kids. Both my girls were cheerleaders. My son was playing football. None of them were good football players or good cheerleaders, but they were doing it. So at this time, you can still pay for them to be there and to try out for it. But then as my kids were getting older, Rick and I had this idea about starting a flag football league. And so I started a flag football league. And really the intention of that was just to get out on Sunday afternoon and throw the football around. We really thought we'd have maybe 2 teams in each age group. And it was just something we just kind of wanted to do for our kids and get off the couch and get outside. And we ended up having 130 plus kids the first year, 14 teams the first year, second year 16 teams, and last year we had over 18 teams. And so the next thing I know I was running an entire league. And then somebody approached me about going through Leadership St. Clair County, and which was one of the most amazing things that I've ever done in my life. And if you haven't done that and you're interested in your county, then I would strongly encourage you to do that. A new class, I believe, starts in September. And if you're interested in it, definitely look into it. But where I grew up in Inslee. I don't know if most of you remember Inslee, what Inslee used to be. I grew up there with a single mom, very similar to Greg, and we really stayed in the house a lot. You know, we played some sports, we went to school, but really our central focus was our living room. You know, I still joke around that my babysitter was the TV because my mom worked, and I come home, I swap down in front of the TV. I really didn't get out a lot. Well, then when I had kids and I came to Springville and moved to St. Clair County, you know, we started having community events. We had a parade right down Main Street. People were throwing stuff off the trailers and candy. I was on a trailer throwing candy off the things. And then I was on a football board, and we started a flag football league. I started meeting people in the community. I didn't even know what a county commissioner was, and I never knew anybody in the city council. And so I started realizing there's something to this community thing. There really is. There's something to a holiday parade. There's something to a festival. There's something to knowing your neighbor, knowing whose kid your kid is playing with. You know, knowing Macy's mom. You know, you don't even know how involved some of these people are, but you know who they are through their children. And then I started meeting some of these great leaders through the Odenville Business Association, and I realized, wow, this is really unique and dynamic. And, you know, I have a 13-year-old and 2 11-year-olds. You know, what can I do to make a change? You know, at Jefferson State, I started the dual enrollment program. That's what I wrote my PhD on. We started out with 10 students at Trussville High School. We have over 1,500 students in dual enrollment each semester at more than 40 different schools. We're partnering with a lot of our business and industries and commerce. We're realizing that students can't just graduate from college any longer and find a job. because they end up moving back in with mom and dad, and they're there to 30, 35 years old, and they still don't have a good career job. And what's happening is, everybody wanted their children to have a better life than what they had. So we said, just make the grades, and you'll be fine. Make the grades, you'll be fine. They'll get a bachelor's degree at 25, 26, and they have no work experience. They don't know when to show up. They don't know how to stay late. They don't know how to finish the job, take those kinds of things on. And so one of the things that we've been doing with Jefferson State is like you mentioned with the dual enrollment program, is bringing back internships, bringing back co-ops. We're not saying that you can't go to Harvard or Yale and get a PhD or an MD, but we're saying on your way to do that, get a credential, start working. When you're 16 years, I remember I got a worker's permit at 15. I don't even know if they do that. Do they still get a worker's permit? At 15, I don't know if you can do that anymore. But you can get a motorcycle license at 14 and a worker's permit at 15. And I was at Crystal's Hamburgers working from 11 to 7 in the morning. And so, but our kids don't have that. If my kids had to do that, it would be a culture shock to them. And that's my kids. And I'm like, you've got to do this. But what we're thinking is you've got to find a way to get these kids to be unique, like you mentioned, to do something extra, to make themselves valuable in the workforce. And the way to do that is to partner with business and industry and commerce. And that's what my economics background teaches me, is that if you're not unique and you don't have that skill, if you don't have that credential, then you may be back living at home at 25 or 26. And that's okay, but you got to be working towards something. And so this position came open. I was honored for folks to reach out to me to run for it. It's definitely something I'm passionate about. I do not have the K-12 experience, but I do have the college experience. I feel like I'm going through K-12. I mean, some of that homework, like you talked about, it's crazy. But I try to do that. That's a lot of times I say, that's your mama. She's got to figure that out. And my kids, they'll call you out quick on it. But I want to work for Springville. I want to work for St. Clair County. I want to work for my school district, Argo, Margaret, the people that I would reflect. I want to. When I walk out after my I think it's a 6-year term, 4-year term, I didn't even know it paid anything until recently. So, and I think it pays $400 or $500 a month. But I want to walk out, if it's a one-term thing, I want to walk out and say, I did my very best every single day I could to make a difference in those students' lives and to make it better, to make St. Clair County a better place to live, and to take other people and bring them into our area and let them feel that warmth and those warm fuzzies. And I know some of tonight's got a little heated, but overall, what an amazing place to be in St. Clair County. And I thank you for welcoming me into it. I'm honored to run for the school board seat. I hope you'll vote for me. I'll be here afterwards, handing out business cards. And so please, any questions or ideas that you have, I'm definitely open to them.
Thank you.
Did you? Yes, ma'am.
I went to school at a school that was like Margaret, where we didn't have a high school, we didn't have a middle school. So if you're running for the board and you're going to be over Springville, over this area, are you going to remember Margaret?
You know,
because Springville gets a lot and we don't get stuff.
Right.
And just like even just having a high school football team come by.
Sure.
It could be the Oakville or it can be Springville. Come by at homecoming.
Right.
And go through the school or be out to do carpool.
Well, I love that question, and that's a fantastic question, and you're dead on. If anybody that knows me, and there's several people in this room that know me that I didn't know they were going to be here, and they didn't know I was going to be here, and talk to them about me, what they'll tell you, first thing is I'm very compassionate, and I'm very passionate, and I'm also competitive. And so I want not just Springville to be the very best, but for the whole county to shine. Like these guys were saying, you know, we have great opportunities to make things better. You'll never reach out to me. I can promise you this. I may not get elected, and you can still come to me. But I promise you'll never reach out to me, and I won't listen to what you have to say. If you tell me, hey, you need to go do this, you need to go do that, and if it can fit into my schedule and I can get there, you better believe I'm going to do it. So I will never forget Margaret. And I'll tell just a real quick, brief story. My first encounter with St. Clair County was in Margaret. My very best friend, still my best friend to this day. We met at Jeff State. I was this close to dropping out of Jeff State. I really was. I was struggling. I wasn't successful. In my high school, if you were in the top 10%, you were going off on athletics or maybe academics, and the bottom 10% to try to keep you out of jail. And that other 80% in there was where a lot of us fall. When you go off to college, you don't have those resources. And I didn't have those resources. And I was about to step out, and this guy turns around and starts talking to me a million miles an hour. Come to find out, he's dating half the class. I mean, he's like the Mac Daddy of Jeff State, and it was amazing. And come to find out, he lived in Margaret. And he had never been to Inslee, and I'd never been to Margaret, and people have heard me tell the story. It was definitely a culture shock for me to come to Margaret and see things. And I remember him saying he doesn't have a key to his door. He left his car keys in his car. And I thought, wow, how can you do that? And he's like, well, I'll lose my keys if I don't take my keys out of my car.